There's something deeply unsettling about footage that defies explanation, where every second feels off and every movement feels wrong. In February of 2013, the world became transfixed by a grainy elevator surveillance video released by the Los Angeles Police Department. In it, a young woman named Elisa Lam steps into an elevator at the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. What unfolds next has been described as one of the most bizarre and disturbing internet anomalies of all time. Elisa was a 21-year-old Canadian student traveling solo through California as part of a soul-searching journey. She regularly documented her trip on her Tumblr blog, posting bright-eyed reflections on life, depression, and the search for meaning. Her final destination was meant to be Santa Cruz, but she never made it there. On January 26, 2013, she checked into the infamous Cecil Hotel, a building with a macabre history. It was once home to serial killers like Richard Ramirez and had long been associated with suicides, violence, and rumors of hauntings. Locals called it cursed, and tourists didn't know any better. Elisa was placed in a shared room with strangers, but was moved to a private room after her behavior became odd. The staff reported she was acting erratically, but what erratic truly meant wouldn't be fully realized until weeks later. On January 31st, she vanished. Hotel guests, staff, and police scoured the building. There was no sign of a struggle, and no sign she ever left the hotel. Her belongings remained untouched. Her parents flew from Vancouver, desperate for answers, but none came. Then, almost a month later, on February 19th, hotel guests began complaining of low water pressure, strange tastes, and black, foul-smelling liquid coming from their taps. Maintenance workers were sent to the roof to inspect the water tanks. What they found would make headlines around the world. Elisa Lam's naked, lifeless body was floating face up in one of the hotel's massive water cisterns. Her clothes were found at the bottom. The hatch was sealed shut. There was simply no easy way in or out. Authorities were baffled. The roof was only accessible via a locked door with an alarm. The tanks themselves were tall, metal, and extremely difficult to climb into. And once inside, there was no ladder to escape. Yet, somehow, Elisa had ended up there, dead. Her death was officially ruled an accidental drowning, exacerbated by her bipolar disorder. But the internet wasn't convinced. The case exploded online after the Los Angeles Police Department released the now infamous elevator surveillance video, recorded just hours before Elisa vanished. The footage is disturbing in ways that are hard to articulate. Elisa enters the elevator and presses multiple buttons, but the doors won't close. She hides in the corner, peeking into the hallway, steps out, and then steps back in. She makes strange, erratic hand gestures, fingers splaying, twisting, almost as if she's trying to communicate with something or someone unseen. Her movements feel unnatural. Her face flickers between fear, confusion, and detachment. At one point, she steps completely out of frame. And then the elevator doors finally close, as if reacting to her departure. There's no audio, just that grainy, looping footage. It went viral almost instantly. People speculated wildly. Was she on drugs? Was she hiding from someone? Possessed or controlled? Paranormal theories began to flourish, fueled by the hotel's dark history, the strange behavior, and the inexplicable logistics of her death. Toxicology reports came back largely clean. There were no signs of illegal substances, and only traces of her prescribed medications. There was no injuries, no signs of assault, no signs of a struggle at all. She had simply drowned. But many things didn't add up. Why did the elevator malfunction in such a specific way while she was inside? Why were her clothes removed and found at the bottom of the tank? Why was the hatch reportedly closed if it would have been nearly impossible to shut from the inside? And perhaps most chilling of all, how did no one hear or see anything? Internet sleuths dug into her blog, retraced her steps, and uncovered chilling coincidences. For instance, the tuberculosis outbreak near the Cecil Hotel at the time was being tested with a diagnostic tool named Lam Elisa. That's not a joke, that's real. A tuberculosis test named Lam Elisa. Some believed it was all part of a larger conspiracy, perhaps an experiment gone wrong. Others connected the dots to a 2005 horror film called Dark Water, in which a little girl's body is found in a water tank atop a decaying apartment building, discovered after black water pours from residents' faucets. It was eerily identical. The Cecil Hotel itself only added fuel to the fire. Since its opening in 1924, it had been the site of multiple suicides, murders, and even had its own serial killer history. It was said to have inspired the setting for American Horror Story. Guests throughout the decades had reported hearing voices, seeing shadows, and waking up with unexplained injuries. When the Netflix docuseries Crime Scene: The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel premiered in 2021, it reignited interest in the case, but also highlighted the dangers of internet speculation. The documentary suggested that many online sleuths went a little too far, falsely accusing innocent people of murder, including a death metal musician who stayed at the hotel long before Elisa ever did. His life was nearly destroyed by the mob of internet detectives. If her death was truly an accident, then why did so many elements around it feel staged, supernatural, symbolic? Was Elisa having a mental health episode that tragically led her to wander the halls, hallucinate danger, and accidentally climb into the tank? Or was there something more? Something that never made it into the report? To this day, Elisa Lam's final moments remain among the most wildly dissected and unsettling pieces of footage on the internet. Her story is a stark reminder of how the digital world can elevate a tragedy into myth, and how sometimes the most terrifying mysteries aren't found in horror films, but in real-life grainy, timestamp video. Whether it was the supernatural, the psychological, or a tragic convergence of both, one thing is certain. What happened to Elisa Lam is more than just a case. It's an anomaly, and one that continues to haunt the internet to this day. It started quietly. A few posters here and there. White paper, black text, taped to telephone poles and bus stops around Provo, Utah. They read, "Have you been having strange dreams?" Beneath that, the Happy Valley Dream Survey is investigating a recent spike in bizarre, unexplainable dreams. Please call this number and leave a detailed description. It seemed like a joke, some kind of local art project, or maybe a psychology student's social experiment. But the more people saw it, the more unsettling it became. There was no branding, no university or organization attached, just a question, a phone number, and the implication that someone, somewhere, was listening. Curious locals began calling the number. Some were sent to a simple voicemail asking for a dream description. Others reported odd interactions, strange tones, distorted recordings, or even unnerving silence before the line cut out. One caller claimed they heard someone breathing on the other end. Another said the line picked up, but no one spoke, and they felt something watching them for hours afterward. But the real weirdness began when people who hadn't seen the flyers started getting calls. Random numbers from Utah, sometimes from untraceable IDs, asking them about their dreams. One woman in Idaho claimed she was called 3 times in one night. When she finally answered, the voice on the other end whispered, "Tell me what you saw." As the mystery gained traction online, Reddit threads popped up. People began to share experiences, dreams they'd had right before encountering the flyer. Some described eerie similarities, a figure standing motionless at the foot of their bed, a black void stretching endlessly, a clock ticking backward. One man dreamt he was in a featureless white room with a buzzing fluorescent light, surrounded by people with blurred faces, all whispering the same phrase, "It's almost time." More flyers started appearing, not just in Utah, but in Portland, Oregon, in the heart of the city. Posters surfaced with a similar message, but now with a different number. This one wasn't the Happy Valley Dream Survey, it was just the Dream Survey. Some of the language had changed too. The new flyer asked if people had been having unusual or reoccurring dreams following a recent seismic event. There had been no earthquake, not a single tremor recorded by the USGS. People who called the new number encountered something stranger. The automated voicemail was robotic, almost lifeless. It asked for a detailed dream description and the caller's location. Some who left messages reported receiving cryptic texts later that day. Nothing overly sinister, just off. A string of numbers, coordinates, fragmented phrases like, "They're watching," or "You've seen it too." No one knew who was behind it. Some thought it was part of an ARG, an alternate reality game, but no one ever claimed it. There were no puzzles to solve, no forums or planned rollouts, just vague, isolated touchpoints that never linked up. No reveal, no climax, just silence. Then the dreams started to get worse. Maybe people just started talking about them more. Dreams of decaying cities, of skies split open by geometric shapes, of mass abductions. A reoccurring theme was the event. People described a moment in their dreams when the world simply ended. Clocks froze, colors drained, and a feeling of overwhelming dread set in. Some even began seeing the same symbols in their dreams. A ring of eyes or a human face twisted into a spiral. More flyers showed up. California, Texas, even as far as Canada. Always the same message, sometimes slightly altered, but always asking about dreams. And then, as quickly as it started, it stopped. The original Utah number went offline. The Portland number followed. Reddit threads were locked or deleted. Posts vanished. Archive pages still exist, but many images of the flyers are now hosted on dead links. The trail went cold, and no official explanation was ever given. Some researchers looked into the numbers themselves. A few were traced to VoIP services, easy to register, easy to disappear. Others were untraceable. There were whispers that it was tied to a government program, a psychological operation, perhaps, an experiment in mass suggestion or dream analysis. After all, dream manipulation isn't new. MKUltra, sleep studies, even targeted memory reactivation. There's a long history of institutions trying to control or observe the unconscious mind. One theory suggests the entire campaign was a kind of psychic honeypot, that whoever set it up was trying to track a specific kind of dream, that maybe something real was slipping through. Glimpses of another world, another reality. and the survey was a net to catch it, to find the people who saw too much. But there's a darker theory, that the flyers weren't looking for random dreams. They were looking for something specific, a pattern, a prophecy, something that might happen, or already did, something we aren't supposed to remember. The real horror of the Happy Valley Dream Survey isn't in the flyers. It's not even in the dreams. It's in the silence that followed. The way it just disappeared without a trace, as if someone had gotten what they needed and vanished. Some people still claim they dream of the flyer. They see it posted on their bedroom wall or simply floating in the air. Sometimes they hear the number being whispered in their ears as they wake up, a number that no longer works. Others report getting strange voicemails late at night. No message, just the sound of breathing, or static, or the same robotic voice asking them to describe their dreams. And maybe that's the point. The flyer was never meant to collect data. It was meant to be answered. It was a seed planted in our minds to get us thinking about our dreams, to get us watching them, an idea that something is watching us while we sleep. Because what better place to hide a message than in a dream, where logic unravels, where time collapses, where no one's truly in control. Maybe the Happy Valley Dream Survey was never truly a survey at all. Maybe it was a warning, and we slept right through it. They vanished without a trace. No struggle, no signs of wildlife, no blood, just gone. One moment they're walking a trail or fishing by a lake, and the next it's like they were never there to begin with. This isn't fiction. This is the 411 missing phenomenon, a chilling series of disappearances, so strange, so deeply unsettling, that they've given rise to endless speculation, controversy, and obsession online. It all started with one man, David Pilatus, a former police officer turned investigator. After being approached by a park ranger who claimed something strange was going on in the national parks, Pilatus began digging into missing person cases. What he found shocked him. Hundreds of people vanishing from America's wilderness under circumstances that defied logic. And what's more disturbing, many of these cases fit bizarre patterns. Patterns the public was never told about. We're not talking about people simply getting lost. These are experienced hikers, hunters, children who vanished within seconds of being seen, only to be found days later, if they're ever found at all, in places they couldn't have possibly reached on foot. Sometimes they're discovered miles away, over mountain ranges, without shoes, without injuries on their feet, without any memory of what had happened. In other cases, their remains are found in areas that had already been thoroughly searched, as if they were placed there later. There is no official recognition of a 411 phenomenon by law enforcement, but the cases keep piling up. Pilatus has cataloged over 1,200 of them from around the world. Although most take place in the United States, especially in national parks, places like Yosemite, Crater Lake, and the Great Smoky Mountains. Vast, haunting landscapes where cell service disappears and rescue teams can search for weeks without ever finding a trace. The children seem especially vulnerable. One of the most famous cases is that of a 2-year-old boy who vanished in the 1970s. He was playing just a few feet from his parents when he disappeared. 3 days later, he was found 12 miles away, up a mountain, across 2 rivers, and and through thick forest. Naked, alive, and with no memory of what had happened. How could a toddler cover that kind of terrain on his own? He couldn't. Not without help. That's the question that haunts every 411 case. Sometimes it's what the search dogs don't find that's most disturbing. In many reports, tracking dogs refuse to follow the scent. They sit down and whine, as if something is wrong, or the scent trail simply ends. Not fades, just abruptly ends, as if the person was lifted off the ground, whisked away by something not of this earth. And that's where the theories begin. Some believe it's aliens. Others whisper about portals, time slips, or cryptids like Bigfoot or skinwalkers. Some believe it's a cover-up by the US government, because oddly enough, there is no central database for people who go missing in national parks. When Pilatus requested this data, the Park Service claimed they didn't track it, and then they asked him to pay tens of thousands of dollars in fees to retrieve it. Let that sink in. The government keeps records on nearly everything, but not on people disappearing in their parks. There's another sinister detail that keeps popping up. Boulder fields and granite. Many of the disappearances happen near or around massive rock formations. Why that matters, no one really knows. But it's a detailed repeat again and again in the files. Another pattern, weather anomalies. After someone vanishes, sudden storms will often blow in, erasing tracks, flooding search areas, and grounding helicopters. Almost like nature itself is conspiring to hide them. And then there's the cluster map. Pilatus has plotted every case he studied on a map in North America. The result is chilling. Clusters of disappearances dotting the map like infection zones, especially around the Rocky Mountains, the Pacific Northwest, and the Appalachian Trail. Each cluster has multiple victims, each case weirder than the last. In some situations, bodies are discovered in areas that have already been searched dozens of times, sometimes by hundreds of people. In one infamous case, a missing man's remains were found in a spot that had been combed by research teams more than 20 times. His body simply appeared, weeks after he vanished, with no signs of trauma, no signs of struggle, just dead, in perfect condition, like he was gently placed there. But some of the most harrowing cases are those that are never solved, the people who are never found. The families left with no closure, no answers, only questions. Some go mad trying to figure it out. Some simply never stop searching, and some even vanish themselves. There's a theory, quiet and unofficial, but that the wilderness isn't empty, that it holds secrets, ancient things, predators we don't understand, maybe even entities that toy with us, tricksters, interdimensional beings, or something far worse, something that feeds. Because the disappearances are ongoing. This isn't something that happened once in the 1970s. This is now. New cases are reported every year. The pattern continues. Children disappearing in seconds, experienced hikers never coming home, bodies found in impossible places. But here's the most disturbing thought of all. If this is happening, if there's truly something out there, what is it? And why is no one talking about it? Why are the parks silent? Why is there no database? Why does the media avoid these stories? You'd think a missing child in broad daylight would be front page news. But in most 411 cases, the stories are buried, forgotten, unless you go looking for them, unless you go digging like Pilatus did, like countless Redditors and amateur sleuths now do, obsessively tracking every case, every detail, and every anomaly. But even if you find answers, will you believe them? Or will they only lead to darker questions? So, next time you step off the trail, remember this. In the wilderness, help is not guaranteed. Rescue is not promised. And sometimes people vanish. And even more, the forest keeps them. The Silk Road was much more than just an ancient trade route connecting east and west. In the digital age, the name was resurrected for a shadowy corner of the internet. A dark web marketplace that operated for nearly 3 years, selling everything from illegal drugs to forged documents and weapons, hidden from the eyes of governments and law enforcement worldwide. This online bazaar was more than just a marketplace. It became a symbol of the anonymity, freedom, and danger lurking beneath the surface of the internet. Founded in February of 2011 by Ross Ulbricht, operating under the pseudonym Dread Pirate Roberts, the Silk Road quickly became the most notorious darknet market of its time. Its creation marked a new era in digital black markets, where transactions were conducted using Bitcoin, a cryptocurrency offering a cloak of anonymity that traditional banking could not provide. The Silk Road's architecture was designed with privacy in mind, hosted on the Tor network, which allowed users to stay completely private, routing their traffic through multiple encrypted layers. It offered a place where buyers and sellers could operate without revealing their identities. At its peak, the Silk Road was a thriving marketplace, generating millions of dollars in monthly sales. Users could browse an extensive catalog of illicit goods, narcotics ranging from marijuana and cocaine to heroin and synthetic drugs, counterfeit passports and IDs, hacking tools, and even services such as hitman contracts, though many of these listings were scams. The site operated much like a legitimate e-commerce platform, complete with user reviews, vendor ratings, and dispute resolutions, creating a semblance of trust in an inherently untrustworthy domain. However, this anonymity and apparent freedom came with profound risks. Law enforcement agencies worldwide saw the Silk Road as a dangerous hub for illegal activity, fueling addiction, violence, and crime. The FBI and other agencies embarked on a complex, multi-year investigation to unmask the people behind it. What followed was a high-stakes digital cat-and-mouse game. As Ross Ulbricht and his team attempted to cover their tracks, patch security holes, and fend off both hackers and investigators alike. Despite the efforts to conceal his identity, investigators found digital breadcrumbs, a mistake early on, using his personal email address linked to Silk Road promotions, and server IP addresses, leaking clues that led them closer and closer to Ulbricht. In October of 2013, the FBI arrested him at a public library in San Francisco, where he was logged into the Silk Road admin's account. Seized were millions of dollars in Bitcoin, and evidence that would later be pivotal in his conviction. The trial that followed revealed the darker side of this online empire. Ulbricht was charged with drug trafficking conspiracy, computer hacking, money laundering, and even murder for hire allegations, though the latter remains controversial and unproven in court. The prosecution painted him as a cold, calculating mastermind who built a virtual empire on the backs of illegal activity. The defense argued he was a libertarian idealist, hoping to create a free market, untouched by government interference. In 2015, Ulbricht was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. His harsh sentence sparked debate about the nature of digital freedom, privacy, and the role of the government in policing cyberspace. Was he a villain exploiting the internet's shadow, or a pioneer who challenged the status quo? The truth is complex, intertwined with questions about technology, morality, and law. Beyond Ulbricht's story, the Silk Road left a lasting legacy on the internet. Its shutdown didn't end darknet markets, it only inspired a wave of successors, often more sophisticated and elusive. The dark web continues to be a marketplace for illicit goods, but also a haven for whistleblowers, activists, and those seeking privacy in oppressive regimes. It's a realm where the line between freedom and criminality is dangerously blurred. The Silk Road also forced governments and tech companies to confront the limits of surveillance and censorship in the digital age. It sparked debates on encryption, anonymity, and the ethics of internet governance that continues to this day. It exposed how technology can empower individuals, for better or for worse, and the challenges in balancing security while also keeping liberty. Today, the Silk Road is a cautionary tale about the dual-edged sword of technological progress. It reminds us how the internet can be a tool for connection and commerce, but also a breeding ground for the bizarre and illegal. It's a story of innovation, hubris, and consequence, one that still resonates in the shadowy corners of the web, where anonymity reigns and the strange thrives. The Silk Road was more than just a marketplace. It was a digital phenomenon that defied the internet's possibilities and perils. Its story is a window into the complexities of the modern, digital age, a world where freedom and danger walk hand in hand beneath the surface of our very connected lives.